With insider Pierre, LeBrun, and TSN 1050 host Bryan Hayes. Pierre, the William Nylander watch continues. It's a story that you've been tracking as closely as anyone. What's the latest on the timeline and the dollar figure to get this thing done?
Yeah, certainly there's been progress on this front. To give it a firm timeline, I think would be a mistake on my part right now, because depending on who you talk to, this thing could be wrapped up in days, but it could also take a number of weeks because there's still work to be done. It is not done yet, is what I'm being told. But a lot of heavy lifting has been done, and my understanding is that if and when the Leafs and Nylander's camp can get this across the finish line, we're looking at an 8-year max deal in the neighborhood of $11 million a year. But I think it's going to be north of $11 million a year. I just don't know how much north. But beyond that, there are other issues that still have to be resolved. And I bring you the example of David Pastrnak a year ago. We started hearing in January that there had been progress with his negotiation. He ended up not finalizing that deal until March 2nd. I'm not saying that's going to be the case with Nylander, but it's just an example of how complex these deals can be in terms of wrapping it up.
8-year max north of $11 million. There are those numbers again. There are some teams that can convince their players to take a little less cash so the organization can build a winner around them. Feels like the Leafs, though, have failed miserably trying to persuade their stars to take less. Have the Leafs hemmed themselves in with these negotiations yet again?
Yes, I think it's been proven here, Gino, that when it comes to superstars on this team, the front office are terrible at negotiating deals, and deals that are going to help the team. And I think with the RFAs and Matthews, Marner, Nylander years ago, they lost all three of those contracts. Now, the Nylander deal worked out to be true value, but at the time it was not. I think that was a win for the player. So if they lost the restricted free agent negotiations, I'm not sure why we should have expected it to change for unrestricted free agent. These are all very good players. Matthews is a great player. William Nylander's a great player. None of them were willing to budge. None of them were willing to send money back towards the team. And I think what has become clear here is Brendan Shanahan on down, regardless of who the GM is, they're terrified of seeing this team without the core four players. They are committed to regular season success and paying for it. And again, all of them are really good players, Gino. But I think it's very seductive for Shanahan and company to sell tickets, jerseys, have homegrown players, be a very successful regular season team, which they have been and they continue to be. But it's not been about making sure they win Stanley Cups, because if it was, I think they'd take a different approach.
Yeah, and Brian, the one thing I would disagree with, I don't think you can say regardless of the GM, because I think that's a really detailed point that you make and a good one. But the fact that Brad Treliving inherited a lot of what's happened here with the core, in a way, to me, cornered himself into really what he could do with William Nylander, which is, if he was going to play hardball to the point where there's a number he wasn't going to go, then William Nylander is probably gone July 1st. You can't lose William Nylander right now the way he's playing, 5th in league scoring. You have to sign him. They are probably going to sign him. They had no choice. But again, to me, there was Kyle Dubas and then there's Brad Treliving, and I don't think you can marry those things into one thing.
Yeah, my point is that Brendan Shanahan, I believe, is pushing the philosophy forward. Okay. He's the guy who's been here since day one. It was Lamoriello, then it was Dubas, now it's Treliving. It's been the same approach. I think Shanahan's the guy that's really pushing that.
Certainly looks like Nylander's going to get at least $11 million. That means the Leafs would have 4 of the top 10 highest paid players in the entire league next year.